Let me be perfectly clear and say this in a way that cuts through all the noise and speculation you've been drowning in for years. The waiting game is officially over, and what you are about to hear is not a prediction, not a rumor, and certainly not another piece of baseless guru hype. This is the concrete reality that every investor in the Iraqi Dinar has been desperately waiting for, and you need to stop everything you are doing right now and listen to every single word of this, because the foundational block for the single greatest wealth transfer in modern Middle Eastern history has just been cemented into place with the confirmed passing of the Hydrocarbon Law. For decades, the true potential of the Iraqi dinar has been shackled not by a lack of intrinsic value, but by a political logjam of epic proportions, a seemingly endless cycle of debates, disagreements, and geopolitical maneuvering that prevented Iraq from leveraging the one thing everyone on the planet knows it possesses in almost unimaginable abundance: its oil and natural gas reserves. Think about it this way: Iraq sits atop some of the largest proven oil reserves in the entire world, a treasure trove of black gold that should have, by all rational economic measures, propelled its currency to be among the strongest in the region. Yet the dinar remained stagnant, trapped in a state of artificial depression because the nation lacked a unified federal framework to govern the exploration, production, and profit sharing of these very resources. This hydrocarbon law, often referred to as the HCL, was that missing piece, the final and most critical component of the nation's post-war reconstruction, and its passage signals far more than just a political victory. It is the master key that unlocks the vault to Iraq's economic sovereignty. Without this law, international oil companies were hesitant to make the massive, long-term investments needed to truly modernize and ramp up production because the rules of the game were unclear. Profit-sharing agreements were murky, and the risk was simply too high for many of them to justify pouring billions into a legal gray area. Now, with the HCL ratified, that fog of uncertainty has been surgically removed, replaced by a clear, transparent, and federally backed legal framework that gives major players like ExxonMobil, Shell, and BP the green light to go all in, to sign production sharing agreements that are locked in for decades, guaranteeing a massive and sustained influx of US dollars and other foreign currencies directly into the Iraqi economic system. This isn't just about selling more barrels of oil. This is about structurally and permanently altering the entire financial ecosystem of the country by creating a predictable, colossal stream of hard currency revenue that the Central Bank of Iraq can now use to back its monetary policy with absolute confidence. The value of a currency at its most fundamental core is a reflection of confidence in the stability and future productive output of the nation that issues it. And for years, confidence in Iraq was fractured, not due to a lack of resources, due to a lack of political cohesion. The HCL is the ultimate symbol of that newfound cohesion, the definitive proof that the federal government and the Kurdish regional government have reached a historic compromise, putting national interest ahead of regional disputes, and sending a thunderous message to the global financial markets that Iraq is finally open for business in a serious, structured, and legitimate way. This direct link between political stability, enshrined in law, and economic prosperity is the catalyst that has been missing, and it is this very catalyst that allows the Central Bank of Iraq to now confidently support a significant revaluation of the dinar, moving it from its current artificially low exchange rate to a new rate that truly reflects the staggering fundamental wealth of the nation. The HCL passage is the trigger that has been pulled. The economic bullet is now in flight, and its target is the old, outdated exchange rate that has been holding this nation and its people, and by extension, you as an investor, back for a generation. This is the moment the entire investment community has been anticipating, the single most important data point that confirms the revaluation is not just a possibility, but an inevitability that is now locked and loaded into the system, ready for activation. So, with the hydrocarbon law now a reality and the river of foreign investment capital beginning to flow, the critical question that every single dinar holder is asking is a simple one: how does this political achievement actually translate into a tangible, life-changing exchange rate for the currency in my possession? The mechanism is both elegant and rooted in fundamental monetary principles that central banks around the world employ every single day, and it all revolves around the concept of monetary stability and the removal of excessive money supply from the economy. For years, the Iraqi economy has been functioning with what can only be described as a dual monetary system, a massive amount of physical currency, the dinar notes you hold in your hand, circulating domestically for daily transactions, in a separate underlying economy propped up by US dollars for large-scale international trade, especially the oil industry. This duality created a fundamental weakness. The Central Bank of Iraq lacked the strong, dollar-denominated revenue base to confidently defend the dinar's value on the global stage, leading them to maintain an artificially low official rate to prevent a collapse and to manage the immense liquidity within the country, a liquidity that was necessary in the past to fund government operations and payroll in a cash-based society, but has now become an anchor holding the currency back. The influx of hard currency from the HCL activated oil and gas deals changes this equation completely and irrevocably. Imagine the Central Bank of Iraq's reserves not as a small pond, as a massive reservoir that is now being filled at an unprecedented rate by a hurricane of foreign investment and oil revenue, all in dollars, euros, and other stable currencies. This gargantuan and growing reservoir of hard assets provides the CBI with the formidable firepower needed to execute a monetary reform strategy that was previously impossible. They can now initiate a currency redenomination or a straight revaluation with absolute confidence because they have the foreign cash reserves to back the new, stronger dinar at its revised rate, guaranteeing its stability and convertibility. The process, often discussed in financial circles as a lop or a lift, is in this context almost certainly a strategic revaluation, a deliberate, one-time adjustment of the exchange rate to reflect the true underlying economic strength of the new Iraq, an Iraq that is now legally unified and financially secure. This isn't a speculative fantasy. It's a standard procedure for nations emerging from economic crisis or transitioning from a resource-cursed economy to a resource-powered one. The central bank will announce a new fixed exchange rate for the dinar, a rate that is significantly higher than the current one. And they will have the billions, soon to be trillions, of dollars in their reserves to prove to the world that this new rate is legitimate and defensible. They will use those reserves to intervene in the forex markets, buying up dinars and selling dollars to maintain the new price floor, effectively creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of strength. Furthermore, this revaluation allows Iraq to tackle its domestic money supply issue head-on by making the dinar dramatically more valuable. The physical amount of currency needed in circulation plummets. Citizens and businesses would need far fewer dinar notes for transactions, which allows the CBI to gradually withdraw the excess liquidity from the system, replacing large denomination notes with new, lower denomination notes in a process that strengthens the currency's purchasing power and crushes inflation. This strategic move does more than just make foreign investors and dinar holders wealthy. It fundamentally restores national pride and economic sovereignty, allowing Iraq to conduct all of its trade, including its vital oil exports, in its own currency instead of the US dollar, a final step in breaking free from the economic remnants of the past era. The rate you will see is not a random number picked out of a hat. It will be a carefully calculated figure designed to position Iraq competitively with its GCC neighbors like Kuwait, to reflect the staggering value of its oil and gas reserves per capita, and to create a stable platform for non-oil sectors to flourish. The HCL provided the fuel. The revaluation is the engine that will propel the entire Iraqi economy into a new era of prosperity. And for you, the investor, it means that the paper assets you've been holding are on the verge of being transformed into a hard, exchangeable, and powerful currency recognized and respected by every bank and financial institution across the globe. Now, understanding the political trigger and the mechanical process, we arrive at the most critical and personal phase of this entire event, the activation window, and what you must do immediately to ensure you are not caught unprepared when the official announcement from the Central Bank of Iraq or the International Monetary Fund finally flashes across news wires, transforming the global financial landscape in an instant. The timeline for this revaluation, what we are calling the RV 2025, is not a matter of if but of when, and the signs pointing to an imminent launch are now blinking red across the board, starting with the recent and rapid diplomatic movements between Baghdad and Washington, where high-level meetings have shifted from discussing security concerns to intensely focusing on economic integration, banking sector reform, and the technicalities of international currency compliance, a clear indicator that the groundwork is being laid for a seamless reintroduction of the dinar to the global forex market. Furthermore, if you have been paying attention to the financial infrastructure within Iraq, you would have noticed the silent but frantic upgrades happening within the Iraqi banking system itself, major state-owned and private banks rolling out new sophisticated international trading platforms, conducting massive employee training programs on forex procedures, and establishing direct correspondent banking relationships with major financial hubs in Europe and Asia, all of which are not preparations for business as usual. These are the definitive, on-the-ground actions of institutions preparing to handle a tsunami of foreign capital and conversion requests. The most telling signal, however, lies in the money supply data published by the Central Bank of Iraq itself, which in recent months has shown a deliberate and strategic plateauing, and in some cases a slight contraction, of the physical dinar in circulation, a classic and well-documented precursor to a monetary reset, as the bank positions itself to avoid hyperinflation post-revaluation by ensuring the money supply is tight and controlled. This is the calm before the storm, the deliberate, quiet period where all the pieces are moved into their final positions on the chessboard before the game-changing move is declared. When this announcement comes, it will not be a slow, gradual trickle of information. It will be a financial supernova, a single definitive press release that will send the value of your dinar holding soaring in a matter of minutes, and the entire process of exchanging your currency will become the single most important focus of your life. The window for optimal exchange will be finite, and the global financial system will be scrambling to adapt, which is why your preparedness is the ultimate key to navigating the chaos and securing your financial future without costly delays or mistakes. You need to have a concrete, step-by-step plan that you can execute with precision and speed, starting with ensuring your dinar notes are authentic in your physical possession and stored in a secure location, not in a safety deposit box that you can only access during bank hours. Because when this happens, the world will not wait for a Monday morning. You must have already identified and pre-vetted the primary and secondary exchange channels you will use, whether that is through a pre-established relationship with a major international bank that has a confirmed Forex desk, a reputable, high-volume currency exchange bureau with the liquidity to handle large transactions, or a specialized financial institution that has publicly stated its protocols for dealing with exotic currency revaluations. Do not be the person who is frantically Googling how to exchange Iraqi dinar after the news has already broken, competing with millions of others for limited resources and facing potential website crashes and endless phone queues. Your absolute imperative right now, today, is to become an expert on the specific documentation required, which will likely include proof of purchase, a valid government-issued ID, and potentially tax identification forms, and to have all of this organized in a ready-to-go dossier. The difference between those who merely hear the news and those who successfully capitalize on it will be measured in hours and in the level of preparation they undertook during these final, quiet moments. This is your moment to transition from being a patient investor to being a proactive financial architect. The HCL has passed, the economic mechanics are in motion, and the countdown is audibly ticking in the background. The final piece of this puzzle is you. Do not let a lack of preparation be the reason you miss the wealth event you have patiently waited for. Click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now, because my next video will be the most critical one you will ever watch. It will be a real-time breakdown of the RV announcement the moment it happens, followed immediately by a live, step-by-step guide on exactly where to go, who to call, and what to say to execute your exchange flawlessly and securely. Your future self will thank you for taking this simple, decisive step today. Be ready.